Joining us now is comedian, actor, and writer Michael Ian Black. He's the author of the new book, A Better Man, A Mostly Serious Letter to My Son. Also with us for our conversation, CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation, best-selling author, U.S. Army combat veteran, Wes Moore. Michael, good morning. Good to see you. So you write in this book, which I think is so important and so good, and I'm so glad you're here to talk about it. You write this: traditional masculinity encourages strength, independence, fortitude, all good qualities. At the same time, though, it provides no useful outlets for our vulnerability. If we cannot allow ourselves vulnerability, how are we supposed to experience wonder, fear, tenderness? If we cannot turn to others for help, what do we do with bewilderment and frustration? How do we even express something as elemental as joy? So let's start at the beginning of this. You're a father, Michael. This is a letter to your son, Elijah. When you sat down to write this, what did you want to say, and what compelled you to say it?
I wanted to answer a question, and good morning, Willie. I wanted to answer a question that I had been seeking for my whole life from my own dad. What does it mean to be a man? My dad died when I was young. We never had that conversation. And I found myself kind of wondering it my whole life and feeling like, constantly questioning, like, was I being a man? Was the way I expressed my manhood the right way to do it? And I think a lot of guys feel that way. And so my son was going off to college, and I wanted to give him something to take with him, something that maybe could lay those own questions that he may have about masculinity to rest in his head.
And there are all these things in the book that you lay out that are a part of, we've been told, of being a man. It's power, it's conquest. As you write in the book, it's down to the clothes you wear and the car you drive and the sports you watch and the things you talk about and the way we acknowledge each other in an elevator, as you write in the book. So what do you tell Elijah about all those cues that we get from the moment we're born through adulthood about what it means to be a man? Are those okay? Should those be changed? Or what do you say to him?
Well, I don't know that you can change them, but I think you can be aware of them and understand that that's what they are. You can understand that whether you drink coffee or tea doesn't make you any more or less of a man. The message that I have for him is however you are, however you express yourself, whatever it is that you want to be in this world is enough. And you are a man. You are enough of a man. You don't need to compare yourself. You don't need to challenge other men or feel challenged by other men. So much of the way we think of manhood is comparing ourselves to other guys and being like, is he more of a dude than I am? Am I more of a dude than he is? It's ridiculous. You know, these are kind of anachronistic notions that we've taken with us for years and years and years. And all I'm saying is I think we can let them go. I think it's okay.
So, Wes, I mean, if you look at some of the cues that we get, what it means to be soft, you know, is to be kind, to cry, you know, to be respectful to women, all these things I know, since I know you so well, we try to instill in our kids as okay and important. We've learned, you learned as a young guy, and I did too, that those were kind of things that made you soft.
And that, one of the things I really love about this frame, Michael, is it's actually not just is it outdated, it's incorrect. You know, and I think about it, and your words in this book really hits me. You know, I also, when I was 4 years old, I watched my father die in front of me, and I would hear my mom talk about what it was like being a woman trying to raise a man and trying her best to, you know, understand what it means to raise a man in this climate, what it means to, you know, in our case, raise a black man in this climate. The book is written from the perspective of a man. How would you recommend that for a single mom or a grandmother who's helping to raise her grandchild? What recommendations would you give to her as she is now having to go through the process, in this case, raising that boy into a man on her own?
So I grew up in a lesbian household. My parents broke up when my mom came out of the closet. She got involved with another woman. So I grew up in a very female-dominated household. And it may be un-PC to say, because I support women raising their kids. I mean, I just do. But I do think it's important I needed to have a male role model in my life, and I didn't really have it. I needed to have somebody, a teacher, a coach, maybe somebody in the clergy, somebody that I felt like I could look to and talk to about these questions. It was frustrating for me that I didn't. Women do an amazing job with their kids, with their sons. And if they don't have that in their lives, I would say for all parents, what you want to do is model the behavior that you want to see. That's not gender specific, I don't think. But if you want to raise a strong child, and I think we all do, be strong. But one of the ways that we show our strength is to be vulnerable. And I think it's not only acceptable, but you should show your vulnerability as a parent. You should show that you're not infallible. You should apologize to your children when you've done wrong. How else can you expect an apology from them? I think modeling, regardless of whether you're a female head of household or a male head of household, is the best way to move forward. Be the person you want them to be.
Michael, I love this for a number of reasons, including because I think in many ways there's a focus on women and young girls and developing their confidence and growing up in a man's world. And sometimes we leave boys and men out of the conversation, which is just as unproductive. So it's a wonderful, wonderful book. You tweeted about an excerpt of your book that describes the, quote, real man and how it explains much of Trumpism. The real man is beset by enemies, always. Always there are others out there threatening to destroy him, to destroy his family, to take everything. It's a bleak way to go through life. Here we men are supposedly strong, yet not strong enough to tell the truth. Tell us more about Trumpism and that sort of fallacy of the real man.
One of the ways we think about traditional masculinity is through the prism of strength. And we as men are encouraged to build a kind of suit of armor around ourselves to protect ourselves from essentially other men. What it ends up doing is trapping ourselves in a suit of armor. We're immune from expressing empathy, from the freedom to express love in some cases. And that armor that we see in so many guys is a kind of, it's like you end up in a tank bursting through the world. And I think Trump is a really good example of that.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.